Thank you for coming to watch Liberty Lighthouse. I'm Patrick Field.
And I'm Trevor Fye.
We just wanted to say before we started the episode, we had an amazingly fun time recording the first episode. We've had a lot of people watching it, sending us personal messages, commenting on the video with both compliments and some constructive criticism, and we really enjoy it. We hope to see that with this second episode. We're working really hard to bring the show to be the best it can be, and without your support and your advice, we wouldn't be able to do it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been an echo chamber of love and support. We really appreciate it. Each and every one of you guys who watch it, it's been amazing. We hope to bring you a better product as we continue. Well, let's just get straight into it.
All right.
You got something on Google.
Yeah. So as most of you probably heard about the memo that got leaked, the memo was titled Google's Ideological Echo Chamber. It suggested this ridiculous radical right idea that men and women are different. The controversial memo was penned by James Damore. He's a Harvard graduate from molecular and cellular biology. For his undergrad, James went to University of Michigan, where he got the University of Illinois, where he got the bronze tablet, which is the highest honor a student can get there. He's become a bit of a martyr on the right. I don't think it's specifically just his memo, but it resembles everything that the right has been saying, how Google and Facebook and Twitter, yada yada yada, these Silicon Valley companies are so ridiculously obsessed with diversity to the point where they're not hiring sometimes qualified candidates because they want to fill quotas of, this many African American employees, this many women employees, this many and it just causes this ridiculous quotas of diversity where you're not hiring people that are qualified. You are also forgetting about diversity of thought, which in my opinion is one of the most important diversities. So they ended up firing him, even though if you read the memo, it's not ridiculous. And we're going to link in the description a link to the memo so you can see it and you can read it yourself. So some people on the right have been going as far to say that we need government intervention in this, and I don't agree. I think that while this is ridiculous, and these companies, they need to stop this. I don't think it's the government's job. For example, as we're recording this right now on Saturday, by the time you see this, it'll have been yesterday. There is something called the March on Google, where some right-wing spokespeople, you got Alex Jones, I think Milo Yiannopoulos is going to be there. I've heard Breitbart sending out some crews. They're going to all the Google offices, and they're during protests. It's called the March on Google. I recommend that you look up what happened yesterday. And see that we're organizing. We're trying to fight this tech company that is just being too much. And I say this understanding that this video is on YouTube, a Google company. But Google, what I want to say is you have a large swath of the population that you have offended now. You may lose customers over this. I hope you do. You've pissed off people, and you need to learn that when you are this large of a company with this much influence, going really political is not the best idea, because you're going to make half the population angry. So with that, on that note, I throw it over to my buddy Trevor here.
So this whole thing with Google, a lot of these companies have began to take this, we must go political, so we have to be either politically correct or politically incorrect, I guess. And I think a lot of these companies who are typically more liberal, which, being liberal isn't inherently a problem. I just think you're wrong, but you can have your views. But you start censoring your employees and their ability to have free speech. Now, like you said, I don't want to have government come in and say, you can't fire him because he said some controversial things, but they're starting to take a dangerous line of just going down toward the left and, like you said, creating an echo chamber within the company of everything has to be left wing. So, I can't remember. Did you say that he was fired, right?
He was fired,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's... I mean, Google, you have every right to do whatever you want with your product, your employees. It's your right. But you have to remember, conservatives are winning elections, which means conservatives are also a pretty decent size of the population. And you're alienating... I mean, it'd be one thing if you were alienating like a smaller group, like, hey, we don't want to be a part of it. Like, if you were to censor like the alt-right or whatever, that, I mean, you're starting to create this way too broad thing where you're looking at if they're anything right of center, we're going to censor them. And that is not anything near being good. I mean, I don't like censorship, period. Whether it's views I agree with or disagree with, censoring stuff is not a healthy thing to do for a democracy, for a constitutional republic, whatever you want to call the United States.
It wasn't even offensive, is the thing. It's not crazy to say men and women, they're slightly different. And if anything, I mean, what he even said is that some of these roles, maybe we should make them more geared towards what biologically women tend to be more prone to. For example, as he said, women tend to be slightly more prone towards people-oriented professions because, a lot of biology has determined that women tend to be more social people. And so he said, what if we were to make some of these jobs more people-oriented, and then maybe more women would be more interested in it, and then we could have more women, we could have more diversity in tech if we were to be, more diverse in the profession, have it more geared towards who we're trying to get applicants for. And one of the things is that it looks like he said he was going to sue Google, and everybody was like, what? No, that's ridiculous. But actually, it looks like they may have violated, I guess, California law. So that's going to be really interesting to see that case because a lot of legal experts said he may actually have a case.
Yeah, California's a weird state.
Because of the fact that the reason they said that is because of the fact that they have their code of conduct. And he largely did not violate the code of conduct. And therefore, they cannot terminate him saying he violated the code of conduct if, he didn't.
Right. I guess, I don't know the specifics with this. I don't know if he was, like he had a contract signed or whatever. But, I mean, if you did, at that point, you are violating a lot of stuff if he had a contract because... Mm-hmm. That's again what I was going on to earlier is being too broad is not a good thing with the company because you're going to alienate a large amount of the population and you may end up losing money. I mean, personally, I love Google. I love the layout. I love everything about it, but some people will go for an alternate browser or whatever.
Actually, because of this, a search engine that some may know called DuckDuckGo has become a lot more popular over the weekend. Are you familiar with DuckDuckGo?
Not at all.
It is a search engine that does not track anything you do. It is a search engine that has been shown to be very good at what it does, and it does not track information about you. It does not customize searches for you. It only shows you what is the most popular, and it does not track what you search, and it has become a lot more popular because of this, and I am very interested to see what happens here.
Well, it sounds like it is a company that might actually respect your right of privacy. That's weird.
We are not sponsored by DuckDuckGo?
Yeah.
Yet.
I've never heard of you guys, so we're not sponsored by you. Anyway.
Unless they want to sponsor us, in which case, DuckDuckGo, we'll put our email in the description below.
Yes. Moving on to next, we want to give an update to the situation in North Korea. Now, this isn't nearly as fun as talking about Google and stuff, but it is a very serious topic. This week, North Korea said they are considering a preemptive strike on the U.S. territory of Guam, which is an island nation 2,200 miles southeast of North Korea. Last month, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, sent 2 supersonic bombers to fly over the Korean Peninsula in a show of force. Now, this comes after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un tested, I believe, let me find it real quick, tested 2 intercontinental missiles. Now, the United Nations Security Council responded to this in a 15-0 vote in favor of sanctions against the North Koreans. The new sanctions would prohibit North Korea from exporting coal, iron ore, lead ore, and seafood. These industries account for 1/3 of North Korean exports, and it could cost the country up to $1 billion in revenue. Of course, President Trump praised the sanctions. He was very thrilled about it. And even China, the communist friends of the communists in North Korea, said that they were willing to take the economic hit for the sanctions North Korea will now be facing. Going back to the strike and everything, the potential strike, Japan said that they were prepared to defend the American island nation of Guam, and that's, again, big because Japan is our biggest ally in the East in terms of military defense. We need them for now until we scale back our bigger military stuff. And it was interesting because Trump, he accused China of being a currency manipulator, of saying we're losing trade to China. He said that he would be willing to go softer on China if they helped with North Korea. And China has indicated that they will help us out with North Korea to at least some sort of extent. Mm-hmm. Now, possibly the best quote President Trump has dropped as president is, "North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with the fire and fury like the world has never seen."
So, Trevor.
Yes.
I want to ask you just right off the bat.
Yeah.
The question that is on everybody's minds.
Yes.
World War III?
Hopefully not. I am confident in our ability to negotiate with China and North Korea and even Russia, for that matter, to scale back the UN regime. Hopefully, this can all end peacefully, but it's a very dangerous situation right now. Now, people are going to disagree with me and say, "Oh no, you're overblowing it." I don't find nuclear weapons to be a joke, and I think a lot of people are looking at North Korea like a joke. But anyone with nuclear capabilities, they're certainly not a joke.
One thing that was actually, I was watching the Phil DeFranco show, and he mentioned is that apparently North Korea has the ability to put nuclear warheads on ballistic missiles, which a lot of military experts have even admitted that they did not know that up until like a month ago that North Korea had that capability. And so I think people saying, "We're the USA, North Korea is not going to scare us." I think I like the virtue in the idea we should not be afraid of we should never be afraid of another country. I trust our national defense, but trying to say that, North Korea is just a bunch of babies, it's a little naive. Yeah. It's a little naive. North Korea has shown that they are capable of more than we thought they were. And as much as liberals try and demonize Trump trying to build a better relationship with Russia, right now is a perfect example of why having Russia as an ally is really good. It's having Russia as an ally when we have this issue with North Korea, I think puts us in a better hands in being able to put economic sanctions on them. Because if Russia were to strengthen sanctions against North Korea, that could definitely put a hit on their economy in being able to develop things like that.
Right. I'd rather be friends with the other big guy in the world than enemies with them, because right now Russia's economy is not doing as well as they want it. Russia has a very difficult time because they have sanctions themselves from their intervention in Syria. But if we were to just take a moment out of the day and look at it from a perspective of North Korea is they're unstable, they're not predictable because the Un regime has proved that. I mean, this guy's killed his own family members. He enslaves, what is it, like 24 million people who live in that country. So I don't think it's that crazy of an idea to say, hey, Moscow, let's get together, figure this out, and move forward, because nuclear war is the worst possibility humanity has.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those, the classic saying of my enemy's enemy is my friend. Mm-hmm. And right now that just perfectly demonstrates that, because I don't like Russia because I'm a red-blooded American, but they're a stable country. They have strong leadership, which isn't to endorse the fact that Vladimir Putin has been a pretty gross violator of human rights in some areas. But they're a stable country. They have a strong leadership, and they have economic ties with North Korea, which we don't. And therefore, if we want more economic sanctions, we either have to go to China or North Korea. China seems to be more afraid of it because of the fact that, one thing I was watching Alex Jones, which I know you're not a big fan of Alex Jones, but he brought up a good point. Give me a moment. He said that people need to say China needs to do this, but also, would you want the crumbling of a country on your neighbor? Because if whatever happens to North Korea is going to affect China, partially because of the fact that they share borders, and so having a country fall that shares borders with you, that's gonna put a lot of strain on China, and so therefore they're not as motivated to try and cripple North Korea as a country, and therefore being able to have Russia try and do that, they have much less interest in the fight. And of course, this is only just my opinion. I do want to say that, because the fact that I know those statements I just made are probably going to have a lot of people disagreeing with them or maybe agreeing with them. So that's what I want to say. It's my opinion. Trevor, what do you think about that, though, that statement?
I disagree, actually, because while, yes, China does have a lot of ties to North Korea, it also hurts China if they're doing business with the massive human rights violator we know as Kim Jong-un. So, they'll take a short economic hit for this, but China is a leading force in the world economy. Whether we like to admit it or not. Yeah, their GDP per capita sucks, but they still produce a lot of goods, and they sell them to a lot of different people. So I disagree with you just because North Korea is... looking at it from a business point, North Korea is bad for business because they do a lot of stupid things. So in the short run, China can make themselves look like heroes because, we went tough on North Korea, when really they're just getting rid of a business partner who might actually end up hurting them more in the long run.
But, and this was also something back to that Alex Jones that he mentioned, is that if North Korea crumbles as a country, that's 24 million-ish people that live there. Where are the people going to go to? When they try and flee the country, where are they going to go to? That's going to be a huge influx of a country that has population control because they're overpopulated, and you're going to have 24 million people, probably not exactly that, but you're going to have those people looking for somewhere to go because their country has fallen. They're going to try and rush the border to China, which, by the way, they have a great wall, and we should too, but that's besides the point.
It's not all 24 million people are going to be fleeing to Beijing. You'll have some go to South Korea, some probably go to Russia. They're going to go all over.
Russia, that's way far away.
No, it's not. Dude, if Syrians can make it to Canada, I'm sure a couple North Koreans can make it to Moscow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a couple.
Next, we will be diving into socialist Venezuela. Patrick.
All right. So, as many of you may know, there's been this huge upset in Venezuela. They've been having riots. They've been having all this different stuff going down. And because President Nicolas Maduro, who has been largely unpopular, called a special election to form what's called a National Assembly to change and rewrite the constitution of the country. Now, he says, well, people voted to do it, but most international watchdog groups have been very severely questioning the legitimacy of the election, largely because polling places had weird hours, because most people that seemed to vote were only for him. They didn't seem to be, even though there's riots, there seemed to be a lot of people that were excluded because of polling locations, odd hours, and these people who don't support it seem to all of a sudden not be on registration. Kind of like how Hillary Clinton imagined the election would have been. But after all this unrest, President Trump said that he will be looking into military intervention in Venezuela, which is a pretty big deal. In Caracas, Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino said that what President Trump said was an act of craziness. And then President Maduro requested a phone call with the White House in which President Trump dabbed on the haters by saying that he said, "I'll be glad to talk to President Maduro as soon as democracy is restored to his country." So what I wanted to ask you, Trevor, is do you think that this is a step towards the United States, possibly not recognizing Venezuela's government?
I think they'll recognize it, but only to destroy it.
Well, one thing, because of the fact that actually UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, which I know you absolutely love her, she actually called an emergency session of the Security Council so that every member could have a confidential briefing on the Venezuelan situation, because it looks like now it might be to the point where UN might look into this as a possible rising of a dictatorship with Nicolas Maduro.
That's interesting. Like you said, I do love Nikki Haley. I trust that she's going to be doing a good job in this, but I don't see a way how we can justify us to involve ourselves within Venezuelan politics. I mean, yes, you have the whole moral argument, but that's how we get, war in Iraq and, just following these
domino effects and such with
following these wars that we really don't have a business being in. And Venezuela is considerably weaker because, one, they're all starving to death,
which is so funny because if you mentioned a decade ago Venezuela starving to death, it would have been like, what are you talking about? They were one of the most profitable countries. Hugo Chavez was this big. Everybody loves Chavez for some reason. I mean, he's a socialist, so I don't really get it. But the country had a booming economy. But the thing is that they kept on spending money instead of saving it before. They kept on spending money before when they had it, because they had this big oil boom. But now they don't have it, and they have nothing to rely on because they didn't save any money.
Well, and it's not only that, they're a very resource-abundant country, and like I'll be specifically talking next week more about the failures of socialism, but they did a great job destroying a beautiful country. And from here, it kind of looks like it's just going to get worse. There are more and more uprisings from the people and, government oppression, so Venezuela is probably going to be taking up your news television time a lot, along with the North Korean situation.
Yeah, I want to circle back to what we were talking about, not getting involved. I absolutely agree that maybe the U.S. should not be involved, but the UN. I mean, this is what they exist for, is preventing these dictatorships. And when you have just because I had some people when I was talking about this thing, well, we don't really understand, what's the full situation, and I disagree. Imagine right now if Trump were to declare we are going to be voting on a group to amend the Constitution. right now. And then, even though a lot of people didn't want it, he specifically only put polling places in rural white areas. People would be pooping their pants. Because that is ridiculous. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens here, because people are not gonna let this go down, because see, with the United States, after the amendment's already agreed upon, we go and we vote on it across the states also. Whatever this National Assembly chooses, because they voted for these representatives, that's just how it is. Right. They voted for the people. They didn't actually vote for whatever is going to be amended. And most of the people in the National Assembly are huge Maduro supporters. And he has already shown that he wants to control the government. Totalitarianism. Yeah.
Didn't a similar thing happen in Turkey? Like, they had a big referendum, and it gave more constitutional authority to the Turkish, I don't know, president, I guess.
Oh, I do remember something.
I remember there was that whole 24-hour coup they had that everyone thought big stuff was going down in Turkey, and then you never heard about it again. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that...
Is Turkey still a country?
Yeah, yes, Turkey is still a country.
I don't hear about them anymore.
But yeah, that you bring up, just talking about all that, you're starting to... you have these corrupt... Because... Actually, this is something that one of my buddies at Liberty Hangout, Justin Moldau, talked about, was North Korea actually started out as a democracy. If you look at the North Korean constitution, they're a democracy. And of course, it's still a democracy, but you get to vote for one candidate, one party, and one set of rules. So then, you're starting to see this bad trend over to these corrupt dictators using democracy to get their way, because they rig the polls. It's a bunch of voter fraud. So it's just a big mess, and it's making democracy kind of look like a joke now. Because even starting with the United States and everything. There was Russia was involved in this, and then the Turkish referendum, now the Venezuelan referendum. It's a big... Now, I don't really know what that'll necessarily do in Venezuela, because I'm assuming it's allocating more power to the executive branch.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're just... Like you said, it's a move toward totalitarianism and a move away from libertarianism, which we, of course, endorse.
Hashtag Liberty.
All right. Next, do we want to move on?
Yeah.
All right.
What do we got? We got Backwards.
Backwards. For those of you who don't know, Backwards
like most people.
Well, the band Backwards. They're led by political activist Eric July. They're a libertarian band, and they have this upcoming tour, which I think they're in Chicago tonight. But what pretty much happened was they were going to go to Toronto, or at least somewhere near Toronto, to have a concert and whatever. They got kicked out of Canada because apparently under Canadian law you cannot enter the country if you have had a DUI in the last 10 years. Well, a member of the Backwards team had one 7 years ago that is actually not even currently on his record, but the Canadians still sent him back. Now, the really funny part about this is the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, said he wanted to bring in 25,000 Syrian refugees.
You know what? If he wants to do that, he should put them in Nunavut. It's the province of Canada that's nearly uninhabitable by humans because it's so cold.
Yeah, and then according to the Toronto Sun, in a 2015 memo made public through an access of information request, the Trudeau government the Trudeau government issued Canadian documents to some refugees that included errors like spelling mistakes and incorrect birthdays and stuff. So that pretty much would render their background checks worthless. Again, you and I, refugees, big difference. But you can't mess this sort of document stuff up, because if you're going to spell their name wrong, because there are different variations of how to spell everyone's name. I mean, that's just how it is. But it's funny because the Canadian government is more than willing to bring in 25,000 people who can have spelling errors, can have a background check, but they're going to kick out a libertarian band.
Well, I mean, to be fair, backwards, people really want to listen to that anyways.
Yes, backwards is great. But
I'm just and
another thing, I don't want to hear this from leftists again, because they compare Canada to a lot of stuff. They're like, they have single payer. Canada's great. Look at their immigration. It's hard to get into Canada, so I don't want to hear
unless you're
a Syrian refugee.
Unless you're from a country with known terrorist ties, then yeah.
Yeah, it's.
But if you're just a liberal American who just thinks that they're a boy when they're a girl, then no, you can't come in. But you know what? If your daddy was a terrorist, then sure, why not?
It's leftists stop using Canada as an example, because it kind of just sucks as a country.
Plus, you get Trevor all triggered over here.
Yeah, leave my band backwards alone, Canada. Leave them alone.
Well, you know what? To be fair, what are they? Are they a rap group? Are they a metal group?
Well, they're like.
Which, by the way, to largely understand most of the jokes in the segment, you're going to have to listen to backwards. Which, it's okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just pooping in Trevor's stingy.
But they're I don't know. They're like this metal/rap group. They're really unique. I like them. Everyone wrongly compares them to Linkin Park, because I guess if you have some rap in your music and you're a metal band, you're automatically Linkin Park. But like I said, listen to them yourselves. It's Linkin backwards. The S is not an S. It's a Z. So look them up, listen to them. It's Eric July.
All right. So our next story is coming from the great state of Alabama. So August 15th are the primaries for the Senate race to fill Jeff Sessions' seat, which Jeff Sessions is obviously the Attorney General. He was a senator from Alabama. So the election is December 15th, but August 15th is going to be the primary. So right now in the Republican race, we have Luther Strange. He is actually serving as the temporary senator right now. When the senator leaves the seat, the governor of that state chooses someone immediately to fill that, and right now that is Luther Strange. He pretty much kisses Mitch McConnell's ass, and somehow has gotten the endorsement of President Trump, which I'm honestly not sure how that one happened, but he does have the endorsement of Donald Trump. It was probably just so that he could probably get some favors with Mitch McConnell, and he seems to be the mainstream Republican. The other front-rider is Roy Moore. I'm not exactly a fan of Luther Strange, but I probably hate Roy Moore even more. He was on the Supreme Court of Alabama, and after the Supreme Court of the United States voted to legalize same-sex marriage, he repeatedly, as the Chief Justice, tried to make it so that Alabama did not have to follow that ruling, and he repeatedly tried to block same-sex marriage happening in Alabama. He commissioned for a Ten Commandments statute to be in the Alabama courtroom, which I'm sure you guys probably remember that whole big thing, the Ten Commandments statute.
Yes.
Federal courts ruled that it was illegal, and Moore contended that federal judges who ruled against his actions consider obedience of a court order superior to all other concerns, even the suppression of the belief in the sovereignty of God. And the guy who is probably the more libertarian of it was Mo Brooks. He's right now in third place, and he's been a member of House of Representatives. He actually helped support the Liberty Caucus's Balanced Budget Act. He supported increased levels of staffing at ICE to remove illegal aliens from the country. He also supported the bill to remove federal housing funds for any companies that use those funds to provide housing to illegal aliens. If some of these sound familiar, it's because they were actually, a lot of them were companion bills to Ted Cruz's Senate bills. He's a true conservative, and while he's in third place, I do hope he wins. I think he would be a great senator. If not, he truly is a great member of the House. I'm not sure. Is he a member of the Liberty Caucus? Because he supports a lot of their stuff.
I'm not positive. I don't know all the members of the Liberty Caucus. From what you said, he might be in it. Here, you keep talking. I'll look that up. What's his name again?
Mo Brooks. And actually, I just finished my piece. I was going to go to the discussion section.
Oh.
So what do you think of this race so far?
It sounds kind of status, like the typical right-wing Republican that I don't really like.
You got mainstream Republican, a Christian extremist, I guess would be the word to use, and we have a guy who may be a member.
He is a member of the Freedom Caucus.
Okay, and he's so far running for it. So, any thoughts on the story?
I hope Mo Brooks wins.
If not, like I said, he's an excellent member of the Freedom Caucus. So, either way it goes, Mo Brooks is in Congress, and I think we're happy. I really don't want Roy anymore. I can't believe at this point that if Mo Brooks doesn't win, I'm cheering for one of the most mainstream Republicans there is, Luther Strange. He'll probably win. That's where the Republican Party is throwing their money.
Certainly, Alabama's race is probably you're gonna probably just get another establishment dude like Jeff Sessions. So I'm not thrilled by Alabama's race at all. It's just more of your typical right wing, big government. But I swear I'm not big government people. Yeah. Moving on to next, our up and coming libertarian guy, or it could be a gal, but a libertarian guy today is Alex Merced. He is a libertarian from New York. He ran for NYC Public Advocate in 2013, U.S. Senate in 2016, and now he's running for NYC Comptroller in 2017. He founded the Libertarian Positivity Caucus, which, if you're a libertarian and you're in the party and stuff, you know we can use positivity. But diving more into the responsibilities of the office, because I personally didn't really know what a comptroller was.
I remember from a episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's interesting. But anyway, they pretty much audit the city's agencies and look at the different pension funds for government workers. They look for the integrity of city contracts, fiscal compliancy, accountability. They try to resolve claims between the city from both the city's perspective and from the not outside of the city's perspective. They're pretty much just there. They sound pretty nonpartisan, but like all things political in New York, it's turned political. Like Republican, Democrat, corruption. I mean, it's New York City.
New York City being corrupt?
No.
What?
Alex wants to audit the city government and shed a light on the inefficiency, corruption, and waste the city has. He wants to help New York issue municipal bonds necessary to finance daily operations, working with financial institutions to get the city's financing on the best terms. He wants to make sure he wants to protect the pensions of the government workers, like your firefighters, police, teachers, all that good stuff. He wants to protect them because he thinks they may be a little vulnerable. Just wants to help out. He has a big background in financial work, and he's just an overall solid libertarian. So definitely look out for him. The general election for that is November 7th. So if for whatever reason you're in New York City watching it, we would highly suggest you look at Alex Merced running for NYC Comptroller.
And if you are in New York City, please leave us a comment so that we know that we've gotten out there.
Yes, we love our New Yorkers. And that concludes the show for today. Thank you very much for watching. Both Patrick and I really appreciate it. We're definitely going to be posting our shows at a regular time, 6:30 Eastern every Sunday. Look out for that. Next week, I'm going to be doing a special on Scandinavian socialism. So be sure to tune in next week.
So next week, I'm going to be doing the current events section by myself, and then we are going to get that special from Trevor about Scandinavian socialism and why it sucks. Please make sure to subscribe below. If you want to get notifications when we post, you'll be able to choose the little bell icon. And like us on Facebook, The Liberty Lighthouse. Follow us on Twitter, The Liberty LH. And we really thank you for watching, and catch you guys on the flippity flop.